Hello, you are very welcome to the first ever Mobile Creator Summit brought to you by Filmic and LumaTouch. My name is Glenn Mulcahy and I will be your host for tonight's event. We have 9 fantastic speakers lined up for you, spread across 2 different sessions. Each one of our speakers has pushed the boundaries in their chosen field, and both of our sessions, mobile filmmaking and mobile vlogging, are clearly topics of interest because over 1,700 people have registered to view today's live stream. So on that note, can I please ask you, as you're here, to please engage with us, ask questions when the opportunity arises. If you are joining us via Facebook, can you please go to streamyard.com/Facebook to give permission so that we can see you in the chat panel. Share your thoughts and takeaways with your own network using our hashtag Mobile Creator Summit. After each one of our speakers has spoken, we'll have 10 minutes for a question and answer session with them. And then when all the speakers have spoken, we'll have a panel discussion for around 25 to 30 minutes. So those are all your opportunities to engage. Whether you're joining us from Facebook or from YouTube, I'm here to moderate and to try to get to as many of your comments and questions as I possibly can. So let's begin. Our first session this evening is a session on mobile filmmaking. Joining us from Paris is Angelo Chiacchio. From Toronto is Sal Massimini. From Dubai is Richard Lackey. And from London is Cassius Rayner. And first up is Angelo. Hey, Angelo, how are you?
Hello, Glenn. Hi, everybody.
How are things in Paris?
You're in Paris. Everything is fine, as fine as it can be during these times. But as you know, everything is less mobile. And, the biggest expedition of my week is going to the supermarket. But, we're doing fine.
Yeah. Well, a very, very big difference to when I guess you were out traveling around the world and documenting life on the road, right? So you're going to talk to us today about Ephemera documentary, right?
Yeah, right. I will show you a little bit what the Ephemera documentary was about and how I organized my workflow during the project. And I will also show you at the end of the presentation some tricks that I use on LumaFusion on the iPad Pro, to improve my footage, but also to do some useful stuff that maybe other people that are following will be needing on their project.
Okay, that sounds really, really fantastic. So you know what? I don't want to encroach on any more of your time, Angelo. I'm happy to hand it over to you, man. Take it away.
Thank you, Glenn. So I'll move to my presentation. There we go. Okay, so the Ephemera documentary was basically a mobile project, a mobile documentary. And to me, this was simply an intimate journey around the world's most evanescent realities. I basically focused on 2 main aspects, 2 main items that were natural landscapes and cultures. This was done in a 300 days continuous journey around the globe, touching almost 30 different locations. And my main focus, as I said, was threatened landscape, threatened natural heritage, but also, threatened and disappearing cultures and way of lives. To tell you a little bit about me, my story, it's a double one. I'm, of course, a photographer and filmmaker. Since I was a kid, I always liked to handle cameras, taking pictures and video later on. And I started a project in Italy with Walter Mofese about the Italian natural heritage. It was called Italia Senza Tempo, and we basically visited different natural parks in Italy to tell about this heritage with innovative techniques such as time-lapse and drone footage. And this started to put me in a mindset of traveling while telling stories. But I'm also a designer, and during my experience here in Paris at No Design, I was working at some point on drones. And to me, drones, for the first moment, they were basically just flying cameras. And with this thing in mind, it really changed the way you can film and what you can do with a drone. We also designed drones that could follow you, on their own. So you could do something else while the drone was flying and filming. This really opened to me new possibilities. And when I saw this project come to life, I said, okay, now I have a drone that follows me everywhere, but what's the point if I don't go anywhere? So that's how the Ephemera documentary was born in my head. And drones are really useful because they give us new opportunities. They give us new points of view on a specific phenomena or, you know, in a situation. And this is really changing a lot in filmmaking. So how I did the Ephemeral documentary was basically with a filmmaker's eye, a designer's hand, and an Italian heart, because I like to think that as an Italian, I have a sensible, you know, heart to, and I'm really eager to talk to people. I'm you know, have certain skill in getting to know them better. I'm open to know about them. And to make this, basically, especially the designer part, I wanted to experiment as much as possible with new formats, especially with VR and 3D scanning. VR and 360 video really give you the possibility to tell story in a different way. You can just choose a point of view, and then, you know, the audience will dive in a situation and decide how to frame the situation. But you can also do the same on your own, shooting like this and then framing in post-production. And 3D scan with photogrammetry was really useful to capture and you know, cultural heritage, objects that have really like big scale, like architectural objects that really need the third dimension to be told and to be preserved. To do all of this, of course, I had a lot of gear with me on my backpack. So there were, of course, camera equipment, camera gears, but there were also clothes and everything you need to travel for 300 days. If we focus only on the video production, photo and video production, I basically divide my gear in 3 different parts. There is production and an instant production with a GoPro or a smartphone that you always have with you. Really, you take a shot without even thinking. Then you have on-the-go gear that is professional camera. They can also shoot videos with different lenses, a boom mic, and a portable drone. And the camera, depending on how you carry it, can even be quite instant if you're just able to take shots really fast. And then you have take your time gear, that it's really, you know, when you have time and you can, you know, prepare your shot, do something more professional, record professional, high quality sound, take an interview. And this is really important to produce a high quality documentary. But where it gets interesting is in post-production. This really changed a lot in the last maximum 5 years. So now you can edit raw digital negative photos on your smartphone, and you can edit video in a professional, powerful way using just a portable wireless drive and an iPad Pro or the powerful tablet. And then when you're back at the hotel or back at your studio back home, you can use a laptop. But I realized on my travel that actually I was most empowered by the video editing on the iPad than I was on my laptop. So that's what I want to focus on the last part of the presentation, to tell you a little bit about that, and especially about our work with LumaFusion. So basically my workflow was shooting, everything is saved on SD card, of course, and then on a mobile wireless drive, I was backing up all my footage and then accessing via wireless on the iPad and selecting the footage, editing the pictures, and then doing my edit. And doing the edits really on a tablet really changes everything, because you have a different posture. You can really work when you're not working. You don't sit at the desk. You're just traveling. Maybe you're just in an airport in the middle of Papua New Guinea, and you can still you have 5 minutes waiting, and you can still work. And this really changes a lot on your video editing. If you're traveling, you don't have time to sit. You don't have a desk. You just have really ephemeral places that you own for a really short time. So now I just want to take some of the last minutes to show you our work with Luma. I will really push the boundaries of this technology, especially doing advanced multi-layer video editing. So I will show you how putting layers on top of the others, sometimes even just 2, you can do really powerful thing to improve your image in a really professional way, something that was only possible on desktop years ago. So I have this video that I shot with my wife on Easter, just because we were, a little bit sad that we couldn't have a churrasco, Brazilian churrasco with some friends. So we just basically made the friends our own, shooting different videos in different positions and then combining it in LumaFusion. So I will show you this, how I did this video at the end of the presentation. But this is not just to show that you can do something fun while improving your technique. So if we go on a demo, I will switch now to the iPad. I will show you something that I like to do. So first of all, I want to show you something that can be really useful. If you're a mobile journalist and maybe you interviewed a person, but you don't have the right for the image, or they don't want to show their face. So the basic technique is just to duplicate your main footage. So you need to be happy with what you have before doing the effect. So let's see, now I have this section. I'm happy with the sequence, so I'll just duplicate the same thing. So let's say that I want to blur my face here. So I can apply an effect to all the footage, right? But this is not what we want to do. So we just want this on my face. So what I do is cropping here on the frame and fit. I do cropping, and I just, redraw only the area that I'm interested in to apply the effect. And then I can use, corner radius to make it no less than more like a square, an ellipsis that is, it fits my face. And then with softness, edge softness, I can blur the edges so that it's seamless. So now I have a footage a little freaky, but really, that is doing the job of not showing the face of this person while I still have the interviews. There is also, more like nicer and more poetical way you can use the same principle. So you just duplicate the same effect, the same sequence, and you apply the effect that you want, But let's say that you want, in this footage, I want to improve, my photography here, fixing the top of the image. So what I did here, basically, is that I applied some effects on the top of the glacier so that I get a more dramatic image. And then what I did is that I cropped and, edge softened, and without even corner radius here, just to get, a seamless transition from the bottom to the top. And you can do this sometimes even in another way, using overlay title, but actually it's not a title, it's just a shape. So I just put a shape on top of this footage. As you can see, just basically a orange rectangle, just a shape. It's an orange rectangle. You can choose whatever color you want, but it's just, basic. And then what I do is that I apply some blur effect, and this, will make similar to a gradient filter. And then the final touch is actually to go on blending. If I just had a normal blending, that will be quite, ugly and hiding my image. But doing different kind of blending, like multiply or linear burn, I can get really this photographic effect, what I call the CSI Miami effect. And then finally, you can really enhance your footage, to give a sense of motion, for example, in this, as I did here. But this is a different technique. You actually apply the effect on the bottom layer. So if I take this and I hide, you will see that the bottom layer has some, motion blur effect. What I did with this footage is actually that, let's hide this for a second. So here I apply some effect, like a short zoom. I can do it even, bigger, but my suggestion that you always try to be as subtle as possible with your effects, so to get a better effect. But let's make it hard so that I can show you. So I have this now, and I have this, but I actually want my bike here not to be blurred like this. So I duplicate this. I unlink and put it on top. And here, what I will do with it, actually, I will cancel all my effect. I don't want all this correction to be there. I just want the contrast, the color that I did. And then I crop on the bottom so that I keep my bike, and then with edge softener and corner radius maybe a little bit, I can get my bike steering wheel back. So that's, and then at the end you have a footage, with motion blur at the edges, even some sort of dirty lens effect, And then of course you can use the same technique for titles, using 3 layers to do an animated title like this edited with LumaFusion. So it's really you have endless possibilities with this, and that's what I wanted to show, with my initial video, So what I basically did was just shooting a long video with Filmic Pro on an iPhone on a tripod, so really fixed position, and decide, beforehand which position to take. So it's really important that you have manual settings so that you control exposure and white balance. And the light can still change because here was natural, but so here you have different shots in different positions, and then if we go through all the layers, basically there is every section with different characters. Sorry. If I take solo, that's basically just one shot that I use as the background with 2 characters. What I do on the layer that is just on top of that, I have just one part of another footage masked in a rectangle with edge softener with the other 2 characters, and so on. Here you have other characters in another part of the image, and and so on. So basically, this is a way to show that even just not so simple actually, quite sophisticated software on tablets now can really give you, the same possibilities of a professional desktop software. Of course, here I will be even better if I could draw my mask points, as I want. But there is always a way, you can overcome the limitation. For instance, here I needed some more layers and instead of, since I use all 6 of them, then I just exported the first video and then duplicated on top of that some other layers, to fix, for instance, here I wanted to have some details that I lost on top of the image, so I put another mask. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. And I really invite you to try LumaFusion and push the boundary. Even if you know it for a long time, there is a lot you can do with multi-layer and effects. Let's go back to camera and Glenn.
I have to say, I've been using its predecessor even before Pinnacle, but it was Avid Studio. So I don't know if it's 2014 or 2015 we're going back to, and I kind of consider myself a reasonably decent LumaFusion editor, but you've kind of just blown me away. I mean, the trick with the color grading, very, very clever. Would never have thought of that, to be perfectly honest. But that layering, that 6 layer image that you did basically in the living room with your wife is spectacular, actually. I had no idea that you could basically fine-tune the masking so really, really efficiently. That's brilliant. I'm really curious. I mean, to get to the point where you feel proficient enough to be able to edit with LumaFusion at that level, how long did it take you? I mean, from when you first picked up the app and tried it to that?
Yeah, it was actually surprisingly fast. I'm quite of a fast learner, but even with that, Luma was really simple. You have the basic of video editing. Once you're used to video editing, it's quite, you find your references, your landmarks quite fast. And then, it's just about not giving, don't have a limitation. Don't limit yourself. Just try. It's digital. You can't break anything. Just try something out and push the boundaries. So that's what I did since I was a kid, and I still do it today. And that's how I learned stuff. So actually, maybe the first week I was already quite at my ease with Luma,
No, that's fantastic. And can I just bring you back to Ephemera documentary? I mean, you talked a little bit about the inspiration for it and everything. I'm wondering, what will you do next? Will there be an opportunity for you to revisit some of those locations in a year or two? I mean, after all this clears, basically, and do an update on where things stand, or would you push that further down the line? What would your plans be?
Yeah, definitely. The Ephemera documentary the main concept was to visit when I was 30, I used to visit 30 places that could have changed in 30 years. So what would be nice was to come back to visit the same places to see if they're still there in 30 years, maybe when I'm 60. There are some places like Kivalina in Alaska that are really threatened by climate change. So I will be surprised they're still there. And maybe the people live and exist in another spot. Right now, I'm focused on the post-production of the ephemera documentary. There is a lot of footage to go through, and I'm planning to do a digital exhibition that will mainly focus on photography and 360 videos and short video interviews. This will be on Google Arts and Culture probably at the end of this year. And then I will work on a full-length documentary that I'm writing. So everything takes time, a lot of time. And, slowly I'm getting there. But yeah, definitely in 30 years, I like to go back.
It sounds like such an amazing project, and I mean, so prescient given how climate is such a huge topic right now, and I think probably being brought into sharper focus even now with as a result of COVID-19. I'm kind of interested to see we have nearly 800 people basically watching the stream live right now, which is pretty impressive. Out of the it's almost half the amount of people signed up, so maybe the other half are coming back in the afternoon. I'm having a quick scooch here through questions. There's loads of technical questions coming in. But there's one, I'll just jump to this one down here from Ellie Setiwan. I hope I did her justice. Ellie Setiwan Bundi. And actually, this stream is moving so fast, it's hard to keep up with this. It says, hello, Mr. Angelo. How do you make your time-lapse videos? Like the example at the beginning of your videos. Was that within Filmic Pro, or how did you do those?
Oh, okay. Now, the beginning, I think it means the taglia senza tempo shots. These were done on Dolly, slider. So motorized, that you program. It basically control the motor and the camera. But then actually, yeah, you need to stick the picture together. You can do something on a phone, but I suggest if you're doing time lapse on a phone, the best thing to do is directly to shoot a video time lapse. It will save a lot of storage, and you still get pretty good quality in 4K with an iPhone today. So it can be even more efficient.
Again, I'm quite surprised how fast the questions are flying up along my screen here. I'm just trying to jump into some of the interesting ones. When you were making the shot with the guests, this is a question from Pilot Vlogs. When you're making the shot with the guests, is your baseline shot just off the setting? I missed that. Sorry. I presume this is what he means about that multi-montage. When you planned it, you shot it as a static shot, but then you did a keyframe animation within Luma afterwards. Isn't that correct?
Oh, yeah. I didn't show that in the video, but actually, at the end of all, I have a 4K video, and I put this in a new Luma project, and I basically do a virtual digital panning, simulating, handheld panning. It just, Luma with some keyframing. In 4K shot exported in a full HD. So something they usually do today, a lot of people do with 360 videos to reframe the shot.
Over capture, I think, isn't that what they call it? There's a question in here from Mark Egan, who hopefully will be joining us on a future show. The question is, love some of those techniques that you showed, Angelo. Where do you think things will be with editing on phones and tablets in a year or two? Like, how far do you think it can go?
Oh, I mean, I think it went already a long way, especially in performance. I mean, I'm still surprised. I have now what we can consider an old iPad Pro, because it was at the late 2017, and it was already better than my MacBook Pro in editing 4K when I was traveling, the ephemera documentary. And this, I think, is because of the library that had been, designed for mobile, and Luma takes advantage of that really well. I think in the future now, what I was waiting for was the possibility to really connect an hard drive using cable, and now it's possible. So I think it's just a matter of software and everything. Every time I talk to Luma, I tell them that sometimes, even if I was really young at the time, but it remembers me now, this period we're living, the first years of personal computing, when you have really small machines that can do like simple stuff. But then everything that comes after that is always improving. And now today we have huge screens with a lot of power, And now we are getting back to smaller screen, but with a lot of power and capabilities. And I think it's changing probably the way we'll work in the future. Probably we'll keep even be able to skip the desktop part. We just be a full mobile, workflow, and able to do a lot of things. So I think, we're already there. It can just improve, and I think maybe we be able to edit raw videos with even better color grading possibilities on a tablet will be possible in a couple of years.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I definitely think we're hitting that inflection kind of curve where it's just literally going exponential, isn't the power of processing? And there's a good question here from DMK Productions. He says, Angelo, how did you color grade the iPhone footage with other GoPro and Sony footage? And you had drone footage and stuff in there as well. So did you do the color grading within LumaFusion as well to match the shots?
Yeah, I did. I designed a LUT that I like, that I used for the Ephemera documentary, and I imported in Luma. So this was my, for the style and for the mood thing, I use always this LUT that was working quite well with both iPhone and GoPro and the Sony footage. But then actually you can just fix the image with brightness, contrast, leveling the curves, that most of the difference in footage in different cameras is there. So once you do that, actually you can the transition is pretty fast. And I was able to do everything in Luma. You had to get used to some sliders that are different from other softwares, but actually it's pretty powerful once you can do white balance and everything. So I did everything on Luma.
Okay, excellent. I'm just going to make one general comment for the viewers. So there's a huge amount of discussion going on in the chat room on the right-hand side here with people asking technical support questions for both Luma and Filmic. Can I just point out that they do actually have Facebook groups? Both companies have Facebook groups where the tech support teams are very, very responsive, and they'll come back to you with answers to your questions. If you'd like to sign up to those groups, please do make your way to the channels, and you can pose those questions and get tech support. The poor social media guys are doing their level best to answer all the questions as well as manage the chat, which is hilarious. But anyway, there is a good question here. I just hovered over it. It's a question from John on the Superfly, who I know has been to my event a few times. As a filmmaker, do you ever feel limited in any way?
Oh, you mean by mobile or in general?
I guess that's what he means. Yeah, exactly. As in, if you have a much more expensive, larger suite, like what are the things that you think you're potentially compromising on?
I don't know. Ephemera documentary actually decided to still carry, a professional camera, especially because I was a lot focused also on photography. So most of the video footage comes from the Sony Alpha 7. But still, I think today we had a discussion, but today with the only limitation I see in mobile, is smartphones, is lenses, and bokeh, a real optical bokeh effect. But apart from that, software-wise, you can shoot quite good log footage with quite good information, and no, I don't feel limited. I think you should never feel limited by technical issues. As a filmmaker, you should do what you have, and then the important part is the story and the experience, and that's what you should focus on. And if you're limited, then you just find a creative way to overcome that limitation.
I think that's really, really good advice. There's just one last comment there that I'm going to tap into. I'm also going to comment on. Not my job, but I can't resist. It's a comment more so than the question from Nadim Al-Mala. And he said, the process of shooting and then editing is going on the very right track, but he's still disappointed regarding sound. Now, as a mobile journalism trainer, this comes up regularly in training. So I'm interested from your perspective. You showed a Zoom, I think it was a H4n or something, possibly, in the photo of the gear that you brought with you. So how did you handle sound in the production? Were you using off-camera recording the whole time, as often happens with EFP, or did you ever use microphones straight into the phone, for instance?
No, I use professional microphone, or semi-professional microphone on the phone and on the on my camera. I forgot to, something that I forgot, it was to buy a microphone for the GoPro, because sometimes I was actually talking to my GoPro and I realized that actually the sound wasn't as good as the other. but it's quite bulky to have an adapter for GoPro, so I wanted to have this always in my hand. But I think once you connect a good microphone, and there are really small ones like the one I'm wearing right now, the small Rode wireless mic. Now to connect it to a phone or to a camera, it's really easy. But this for production. For editing, actually I was doing some really simple things. So I have always a lot of music, recording my voice, a voiceover. So basically the sound is already quite good. You can fix it already in production using professional recorder, then a background music, and then having sound, live sound in the bottom to give some texture. And this was already enough to me, actually. So just simple transition to fix the music and to have seamless transition between voiceover and sound. It's already enough. But yeah, of course, I think we probably miss the Luma touch of sound. So not right now, you have GarageBand that you can do, but there's nothing that is really video focused that I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is some good thing out there that I don't know. But the one I tried so far, they weren't as powerful as Luma to our audio.
Okay, very good. We're run out of time, but that was a really, really fascinating presentation, Angelo. You're going to stay with us for the panel discussion at the end, yes?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, fantastic. So here at the bottom of the screen, a few people asked this actually. So here at the bottom of the screen are all Angelo's his social media accounts. A few people were asking questions very specific about the process that you used and so on and so forth. So I'm going to encourage them to follow you and maybe reach out to you for the next little while so you can answer some of those questions even after this session. But again, I hugely appreciate your time and your insights. You've made me feel like a complete amateur, I have to say. But I've learned some really, really useful hacks and I really appreciate it. And we'll circle back to talk to you again in roughly an hour and a half. Is that okay?
Thank you, Glenn. See you later.
Thank you so much, Angelo. Take care. Bye-bye. I'm having a quick look also, scanning down through the actual comments here, and we have loads of people joining us and saying hello. So at a quick glance, I was trying to take note while going through the feed. We have people from Nigeria, the Netherlands, Iraq, Pakistan, India, Canada, Spain, France, Germany, UK, Arizona, Australia, Austria, and Finland. And those are just the ones I've spotted. There may be many, many more people. We're up to nearly 900 watching the feed right now. So you're very, very welcome. Our next speaker is joining us all the way from Toronto, where Sal Massimini is hopefully standing by. Sal, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Glenn.
Hey, how are you doing? Are you well?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. You're not based in Toronto, are you? Is that home?
No, I'm based in Los Angeles. LA is home, but I was up here for a show. I spent a lot of time in Toronto and in Vancouver for different television shows. So the most recent was American Gods, where I was a producer and the second unit director. So we were up here this winter filming.
Okay, wow. Are you currently on lockdown up there at the moment? Is that kind of the...
It is lockdown up here. So I think it is pretty much for everywhere in the world right now.
Yeah, that's true. I think we are at that stage, yeah. So you mentioned you have a presentation on standby to talk us a little bit through your career path. So you've come from visual effects into actually directing. We'll talk a little bit about your short, which is about to drop pretty much anytime soon, or is it already out? Isn't I already released?
No, NI is already released, and then I'm in the process of, I just dropped a trailer this morning for a show, for a little documentary that I'm doing, sort of a behind the scenes of Toronto during the whole lockdown, because it is such a historical moment. And that is sort of Mojo mobile journalism style, shot on my iPhone. So I'm working on that right now, but I did drop the trailer and I'll show that today during the presentation. I
very much look forward to that. Okay, I know I've run slightly over, I'm sorry, so I'm not going to take any more of your time. It's all over to you.
Awesome. So I've got this other, there we go. So you can see the screen. So I'll go right into it and give you guys a little bit of some backstory. As Glenn mentioned, there was some visual effects in there, but really it started out, I was a fine arts major and I was painting and drawing primarily at the Maryland Institute College of Art. And it was my senior year where I got into visual effects. And that's sort of, kept me very, very busy for a long time. I was a visual effects artist, working my way up to visual effects supervisor. And it was mostly television shows. It was also commercials and features. So I'll show you a little reel that shows not only my visual effects work, but also my directing work, which is what I do now. I've transitioned from visual effects into directing. I became a second unit director, and then I also did commercials as well as several shorts. And so the most recent, I've just been writing and producing and directing now. That's my main focus. So I'll give you a little reel just to give you a little more context.
Something brand new.
Okay, so, and there's a combination of different shows there. You could tell, I don't know if you recognize some of them from True Blood, Once Upon a Time. There was some of the movies with Straw Dogs. I worked on Fast and Furious. Commercials also included things for Prada, Target, etc. So there's sort of a wide range of different topics and things that I've worked on. So the next thing, let's see. The next, and then in addition to the filmmaking, I partnered with 3 other guys, and we created a company called Master Cinematographers, also known as MC4. And we are sort of dedicated to creating technological innovations that speed and ease the art of cinematography. Essentially, it's making a smaller footprint to make things more mobile and easier and faster. And that seems to be the trend in general, just everything from our attention spans, just everything is faster and easier. So my partners are Jared Land, who's the president of Red Digital Cinema, and we've got Francis Kenny, ASC, and Richard Crudo, ASC. And we've 2 of the pieces of equipment that we created. One is called the Steadicam Air, where we partnered with Tiffin, and it's a pneumatic gas pedaled monopod. And there are sort of 2 different versions. One is this sort of DSLR version, and the other one is the cinema camera setup. It's just for the different sizes and weights of the cameras. And as you can see on the left there, I've used the Steadicam Air for, you know, even setups with my phone on the monopod. And then the other piece of equipment is called the Squish, and it's an omnidirectional sort of camera head that'll enable you to adjust the position of the camera 18 degrees in every direction. And we partnered with Wild Iron for that. And both of these pieces, again, the goal is streamlining cinematography, making it smaller, faster, easier to use. And again, you can see even on, there was the show there with Kurt Russell. We've got the monopod, the Steadicam Air there. So, but really what I would like to talk about today is not necessarily so much about the gear. The bigger message that I would like to put across is it doesn't really matter what your gear is. At the end of the day, if you don't have a story, then you don't really have anything. And what you never want to forget is what is the heart of the story. So for instance, there's a couple of these different images here, and I'm sure you recognize if not all of them, probably all of them. They're so iconic. And when you look at the image, do you really think about the gear that was used? What camera? What were the technical things? At least for me personally, when I look at it, it's an emotional connection. Whenever I watch a movie, whenever I watch a show, and this is sort of the feeling that you get from other people around you when you leave a movie theater, is what was the emotional impact? And did you care about the characters? Did you cry when they died, or if something happened, or you know, did you clap because you're so excited? You don't even need to see Rocky's face. You know that's Rocky, and you know the feeling that he just experienced by running up those stairs. So that's something that's just like a big underlying thing that I always try to keep in mind, regardless of what it is that I'm shooting on, that the story, the emotion, the heart, and a unique point of view is, at the end of the day, more important than the actual technology that you're filming on. So now going into that though, a little bit about the gear, because I get asked this a lot, with shooting a phone versus a traditional cinema camera. So the pros with shooting on your phone is, a question that a lot of cinematographers get asked is, what's the best camera that you can shoot on? What's your favorite camera? And the people are expecting a specific answer, like a Canon or a Red or whatever. And the answer that I hear most often is, the best camera is the one that's in your hand at the time. So guess what? We all are like addicted to our phones. Our phones are always with us. So that's the one we've always got. And fortunately, with technology, the advancements with the camera in the phones, it's pretty amazing. So it's extremely liberating. It's easy to get into like, you know, small situations, to go incognito, and it's very fast to work with. The cons, obviously, they're not where the cinema cameras are as far as the quality, the memory, the support, the storage, the support gear, the sensors is a big one. You know, we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples. It's, you know, like $100,000 camera setup versus $1,000 phone. There's going to be some give and take. Some of the gear that I actually work with, though, when I do shoot with a phone is Filmic Pro is a definite. As far as an app, a couple of the things that I love using with it is the color space, the color management. It actually has a couple settings that you can shoot dynamic or log. And I shot a short last year called NI. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a bit, but this was shot on the red hydrogen prototype. And on the left was the raw footage, and on the right was the color corrected final footage that we did on the Flame at Zoic Studios. And so just from that, you know, this was shot on a phone. Look at the difference in what we were able to get out of it. It's pretty amazing. And then some of the other gear is just, you know, the DJI Osmo, Beast Grip I'll use for the lens adapter sometimes, the MC4 gear, the Steadicam Air and the Squish. And then I personally use Adobe for editing. So again, here you can see some of the footprint, the small footprint with filming with the phone, and some of our behind the scenes footage. Now going into the cinema camera, volume off for that. So you've got the cinema camera setups, and the pros are, there's a ton of history. Like these cameras, we've been shooting on them to create film for a very long time. And so with that, you've got the quality and the sensors and the memory, like everything that goes along with it, as well as tons of support gear. You go onto a film set and there's just trucks and trucks and trucks filled with gear. But with that, it means you have a huge footprint and everything is slower, more cumbersome, which is going to cost a heck of a lot more money. For instance, if you're filming and suddenly you come up with an idea for a shot and you want to go down the street, you're like, okay, let's go shoot down there. You have to get every single person involved, your AT, your locations manager. You go down there, then you find out, can we even shoot here? Will the people let us shoot in here? If there's road, will the traffic, are the cops there? There's so many questions to ask. And then at the end of the day, there's a chance you might not even be able to shoot it. So there's a lot more planning and time that goes into it. At the end of the day, though, if you can get the shots are awesome, because you've got the quality and just the history in general and the knowledge of what of the people that you're working with. So then you can see a couple of photos here, just just the sense of the scale as far as the footprint, and even just like our little video village. That's a very small one actually compared to some of the ones that I've been on. They'll be like 3 times the size of that. So that's just, a big picture, phones versus cinema camera setups. Now here's the thing. No matter what it is you're working on, like whatever it is, the name of the game is creative problem solving. Something will always come up. Always, 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 always. So here are a couple just funny images that I actually had that had documented some of our little conundrums. So the top left is we were out filming some plates and we did not have a sunscreen. So what did we do? We found some cardboard and some tape and we made a little sunscreen. And it looks silly, but it worked out perfectly. And then in the bottom left, we had a shot that we were coming up with at the 11th hour and didn't have a dolly. So we looked around and we were like, well, let's use a car. Let's get into the trunk of the car. We did it sort of David Fincher style, where you overscan the shot, allowing for space so that you can stabilize in post. And then personally, I like to shoot larger anyways so that I can reframe a lot and just play with composition after the fact. And it worked out perfectly. And then next to that, cameras will heat up. So this one actually, I think, was an actual first aid ice bag, but we've used frozen peas from Craft Services. The next image was broken shattered lens. That was a Leica Summilux, but it was minus 40 degrees outside. And at that point, it doesn't matter if it's Celsius or Fahrenheit, it's freezing cold. And that's when it balances out anyways. That was the coldest night that I've ever filmed on, but everything was breaking, everything. And then the top right image is an example. So there was a commercial that I was shooting, and the cinematographer spotted, while we were shooting the main piece, he spotted another angle, and he went up there and he filmed it with his phone. That made it into the cut. Half the people had no idea that we had a shot in there that was filmed on the phone compared to the rest of the footage that we had, albeit it was a fast shot. If we had stayed on it for a lot longer, then depending on what the final, what you were viewing it on, you might have spotted something. But for what it worked out perfectly. So this, I'm going to play it in just a second. So the latest thing that I'm working on right now is the impact of COVID-19. And there's several filmmakers. We're going around and we are documenting the cities that we're in. And so I've spent 2 days out in the streets in Toronto, where I currently am, with the phone, because again, it's very mobile, it's small, it's incognito. I can stay really close and not spread out, not touch anything. I've got a full, face mask on, lots of antibacterial hand soap, and I'm staying very far away from everybody. But that's not to say much because there's nobody out, as you're going to see in the video. So right now, this is a trailer for a 2-minute larger piece that I am cutting that hopefully will be done and dropping next week. So I'll keep, so stay tuned for that. But here's the trailer. So there'll be more from that later. The 2-minute piece, the shots, it's creepy, like being in Union Station and the subway system there, or at the Dundas Square, which is sort of Toronto's Times Square, with nobody around. It was pretty historical. So it's very exciting to do. So, I'm excited. Now, so this next little piece I'm going to show you, just to give you a little bit more input with, even if it's not necessarily, I'm sort of like a guinea pig for, testing different things. I always was. It's just new toys. So for instance, this was the short that introduced me to the world of mobile filmmaking. I dropped this short last year, and I was able to get my hands on some of the red hydrogen prototypes. And Georgia Wingham and David Mesa were our 2 actors, and we created a little short shooting that. So I'll show you the trailer for that right here. And we were the first ones to shoot a narrative short drama on the red hydrogen.
No, please don't leave me here.
You'll be safe here.
Just give me one more chance, please. Forget about the past. I know.
So that is the short. More the full version of that can be found at nishortfilm.com. So it was a great fun project that we did, and learned a lot about the gear and sort of mobile filmmaking. And let's see. And just another thing to note for that short, not only did we test ourselves with using prototypes, but we also pushed it, did a little exercise. Can we shoot something using only one light? And that light was the flashlight from the phone that the actress had in her hand. So it was definitely pushing the sensors as much as possible. And, it was Caravaggio was an initial inspiration as far as the look with like the chiaroscuro. And, but yeah, it was fun. So I hope you enjoy that. A couple little final thoughts. So, especially during this whole quarantine period where a lot of people should be inside. And even if you're not, the thing that I'm always told by my mentors is always, always, always be writing or filming, creating content, coming up with stuff, thinking of ideas. There's no time to be bored. And don't ever get let down if somebody tells you no. If you're going to make it in this industry, you're going to be told no over and over and over. It's like a broken record and even a joke at times. But all you need is just one yes. And that's going to take you to your next step. And you just sort of follow your yeses. The next little tidbit is give yourself more time than you think you need. Something will either always go wrong, or what'll happen is the opposite, is that you're going to be in the middle of a shoot and that's when there's like magic happening, and you're going to see some new shot, or you're going to want to try something else. And if you have the luxury of time, and I'm telling you, it's a commodity. It's a massive luxury if you've got time while you're in the middle of your shoot day, because you're either up against the sun going down, which you have no control over. You want to give yourself the time to play, and which goes right into my next one, which is have fun. And again, the most expensive and flashy gear isn't always necessary to make your art. Again, we can tell our story with a simple phone. And there's no I in team. Collaboration and passion is key. Passion is contagious, and having your entire team that you're working with be passionate about the project is priceless. You're going to want to follow your bliss, because people will feel that. Be safe. And my takeaway is, this is again from probably my fine arts background, is for me, every movie is made up of thousands and thousands of frames. Each frame is a painting, composition, everything is right there in each frame. And each painting tells a story. Therefore, don't forget, story first. So that's all. Thank you so much, everybody.
That's absolutely fantastic, Sal. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, story first. And I love that idea. Every frame is a painting. I think it's a paradox for me, but the problem with mobile is that people often just think immediacy, and they often don't take time to really consider composition. And the other thing I often see with people who try short films for the first time is they spend all their time, and this is coming up a lot in the comments right now, about what gear. Actually, to even really, really think deeply about the composition and the shots, and also to think about the talent in front of camera, because an awful lot of short films, people again put all the energy into the kit and no energy into the talent.
Oh, talent is huge, like huge. That'll also be a make or break. If your actor is not believable, then you're completely taken out of it immediately. Yeah. So exactly. That's a very good point.
It echoes this question that came in for Dell, actually. When filming with the smartphone, you need to get closer to the actors because of the lenses. How do the actors react to the camera being so close?
I think, okay, so there's two parts to that. One is, for instance, and I've mentioned this to you before in conversations, Glenn, is that actually with kids, when filming with kids, there have been conscious decisions that I've made. There was a commercial that I did working with a lot of kids, and we consciously chose to shoot on smaller cameras, on DSLRs, because kids are so used to their parents in their faces, filming them on the phones, that the smaller footprint of the camera, they're less intimidated versus a huge camera that they're in front of. If it's a well-trained actor that's been around, they're used to it. They don't care if it's a phone versus a massive camera. If they're a professional, it's amazing what they can do, and they can just sort of shut everything else out. So yeah, I noticed that kids actually are great with it because they're used to it, and the adult actors, they're a professional actor. If they know their stuff, it doesn't matter.
Very good. I think, I mean, based on what you said about the production, the approach for the production of NI, like the single camera light, you really kind of can't go too much more basic than that when it comes to your kind of lighting solution. But I mean, for the type of story, it's perfect. It's evocative. It's very real and visceral. So it's an inspiration for young filmmakers. If there are any young filmmakers watching the stream tonight, okay, and they're sitting there scratching themselves, probably not convinced that that little tool that they're probably just messaging their friends on is potentially an amazing camera and an amazing editing solution, what advice would you give them?
Make stuff. Like, don't just sit around and be intimidated by, oh, what if it's not going to look good? What if it doesn't fail? You have no ideas how many versions of things I've sent to my poor family members and friends. Like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And then the amount of like feedback and like funny times that they'll give me, they'll be like, what are you doing? What are you thinking of? But you know, there's this sort of there was this analogy, this sort of test study that was done where there's two groups of people. One group is in a room for an hour when they're told to draw one version of a still life, and they can only do one drawing. And the second group of people are told to do as many versions of that still life drawing as possible. And at the end, both groups are judged on which drawing is better. And the people that actually did multiple drawings had better drawings in the end because they were able to learn from their mistakes. They weren't so precious with those first lines. And it's all about, you know, failure and learning from your mistakes and just experimentation.
And that very much echoes actually a message that I remember hearing from Conrad Mess quite a few years ago, where again, people always ask him, he's won, I don't know how many awards for short films actually over the years. Where did you learn? He said, I just keep watching videos on YouTube. Exactly. That's it, you know, you can't. Here's a question from Tom Morris. What was your moment when you saw the benefits of mobile filmmaking? What was the eureka moment?
I think, to be honest, it was filming the short that I did last year. Although we were working with prototypes and there was a lot of figuring out because everything was so new, the versatility and the ability to just move so quickly in a space and make changes on the fly, that was really sort of a euphoric moment. So, and it's, you know, it's just so handy. So I think that was the big one for me.
Very good. I'll reference back to a kind of a competition documentary that was made back in 2014, 2015 by Zacuto. And it was kind of at the peak of the zenith of the whole DSLR for video kind of movement. And a lot of cinema people, I suppose, with the Aries and the Reds and everyone else, perhaps feeling a little bit twitchy about, could this disrupt the market? What's going to happen? And then mobile was kind of seen as you know, oh yeah, you can also do it on a phone, but they did this shootout competition, a blind shootout on a Hollywood set. You could control the lighting, each camera, and there was cameras from like 80,000 down to like an iPhone 4 or 5 it was. Michael Corbell actually directed, and that was the first generation of Filmic Pro. But my point is this, it caused consternation in the screening because it was a blind screening test in a cinema. Everyone was asked, can you spot which camera is which for exactly the same scene? And it caused absolute warfare. My question is that for you, you know, I mean, you're an extremely well-established member of the professional cinematic industry. What's the response been like from your peers to you shooting on the phone?
I think it's sort of hot and cold. There's some of the hardcore traditionalists that if they knew you were shooting something on a phone, there's going to be a little like, what do you think? Like, what are you doing? But then there's the other, you know, cinematographers who've also been around for a very long time, and they're all about like, it's new gear. Why would we, you know, put down something? It's another way to capture an image. And if it's the piece of gear that you have there at the time to capture an image, then yeah, because at the end of the day, the composition and the lighting of the scene and the story are so important in the performance that, you know, it's, you know, use what you've got. So I've seen both reactions. So it'll be interesting to see in, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the development of the phone, where it all goes.
Yeah, very much so. I would 100% agree with computational photography and everything else as it's heating up. It's certainly going to make things very interesting in the weeks and years to come. Yep. We've run out of time, Sal, for now anyway. On the screen down here are Sal's social media handles. You can also get them on our website. You're going to circle back and join us for the panel discussion in a while?
Yes, I'll be there in a little bit.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we get to pick up some more of these because we've got tons of conversation. Can I just say as well, when you played your show reel, there was a constant thread of, wow, oh my God, wow, great work, awesome. I could go on, but hopefully you get the sense of it. So I think awesome. Everyone is left suitably impressed.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sal. Okay, talk to you in a little while.
Thanks.